All right, y'all take your Bibles, if you would, and turn to Proverbs Chapter 27, continuing our look at the book of Proverbs. I think we've been on this for about 2 years, long time. Have just a few more chapters to go. I am giving a lot of thought talking to the preacher about what he wants us to go to next. If you have a particular subject or thought that you want to let me know about, I'll bring that up to the preacher to see what subject or book that he wants us to begin reviewing. It's good to see, is it Brother Aaron? Is that right? Missionary to Romania. Have you been to Romania already? 3 years, well, amen. So you and Miss Lois can communicate in Romanian well. Good. Sir?
He's our contact lead.
Awesome. And you're on the third pew today. When people get out of place, it bothers me. I'm sorry? Be sure to move next week. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 27. We'll start at verse number 13. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger, and take a pledge of him for a strange woman. He that blesseth his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. Y'all have to promise me, ladies, when I talk about that verse, that you love me no matter what I say. I will be very delicate there. Verse number 16. Whoso hideth her hideth the wind, and the ointment of his right hand which bewrayeth itself. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. A few weeks ago, I spent a lot of time in the early part of this chapter talking about being a friend. Friends are important. And I'm seeing that theme over and over and over in this verse. I thank the Lord for good friends. I do. Friends, I want a friend that will help me be a better servant of the Lord, to follow the Lord. And when I'm out of line, that's what a good friend does. But I want to ask you, have you walked in the garden today with your friend? Have you spent time today walking in the cool of the day with your friend? Have you done that this week? The Wednesday night class, is this going in and out? The Wednesday night class that Brother Mike has been teaching, Experiencing God, I've taken that to heart. I want to know God. I've been saved since 1973, a long time. But I want to know Him. I want to walk with Him. Not going to Him for the things that I want or need in life, just a fellowship with Him. I want that in my life. I want us to have a close relationship, like a father and a son, where I can just go to Him and just talk to Him and spend time. Do we want that? We're going to look at friends today. Have you spent time with Him? I found this. When I go to Him, this last Wednesday night class, Brother Mike asked us to spend some time. I walked outside, and I was just talking to him. And the first thing that penetrated my heart was this: He is welcoming. He wanted me to be there. And He's merciful. You see, you guys don't know who I am. I know who I am. I need every bit of His mercy. I need that. And I found out He's merciful, regardless of the wickedness that lies within me. I love that. That is a friend, and He desires fellowship. That has nothing to do with the verses we're going to look at today, but I wanted to say it, so I did. Verse number 13. You know, this is the exact same verse that you see in Proverbs 20:16. We won't take time there, but take his garment that is surety for a stranger. What is surety? What does that mean? Yeah, security, co-signing, standing in the place of somebody to ensure they do what they're supposed to do. That's surety. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger. You know, we are cautioned over and over, and y'all know that you like that y'all down south? I said that just for, are you from the south? Texas. What part of Texas? Dallas. I go there a lot for business, yeah. So I was going to say y'all just for him, but it's actually part of my vocabulary. But we see this over and over and over again where we are warned about suretyship, where we are warned about standing in the place of somebody to cover their debt. If a man is somebody that would do this, that would need suretyship, that would need somebody to stand for them, to cover their debt if they can't, or if they are somebody that would be a security or a surety for somebody, the context of this passage and other passages in Proverbs is those people that would either need suretyship or stand for suretyship, they are weak, and excuse me for being candid about this, but also foolish. Be careful about this. The Bible warns us over and over about that. We ought to know this. If I can't pay for something, if I can't pay for something I want, more than likely, and I think way more than likely, it's probably not God's will for us to have it. If we have to borrow, beg, and steal to get something, more than likely it's not God's will to get it, or if we have to get suretyship, it is probably not God's will. Let me tell you an example. Years ago, when I was younger, obviously, my oldest son was 18, and he needed a car. And so we went to some dealerships, and he had saved some money up. And we started negotiating with a dealer on, I don't remember the car, some Explorer, I think. And we started haggling. I got to tell you, I like to haggle a little bit. And so I probably walked out 2 or 3 times, and the guy would bring the price down. Finally, he got to the point where he wasn't coming down anymore, and he didn't have enough money. He says, well, Dad, you can just co-sign for him. I said, first of all, dude, it ain't none of your business. I'm not co-signing for him or anybody else. I'm not going to do that. And if you want this deal, this is what you're going to charge us. And he did it. He didn't. My point is this. I don't care what anybody tries to force you to do. Be careful. And I believe, my personal opinion is I'm not co-signing for anybody. Don't do that. The Bible warns us about that very explicitly. The man that would be surety to a co-signer is in danger of being in ruin. I know a relationship, a marriage relationship that was hurt and that was ruined because a husband co-signed for a third party and the wife didn't know about it until the debt collectors were calling. Hurt the marriage. I'm telling you, we need to be careful about this. We need to learn a lesson that we shouldn't sign for anybody. In the Old Testament, it was unlawful. And I think, let me find the passage. And you don't have to turn there, but Exodus 22:26, it was not lawful to take a garment of a man for surety beyond the sunset. You had to give it back. The Bible's really clear, and the principles are over and over and over again that we should not do that. And then the next part of that verse, take a pledge of him for a strange woman. That's 2 odd things. Talking about suretyship and then a pledge for a strange woman. The Bible isn't stating these seemingly odd things to be confusing at all. I think they are really tied and yoked together, and I'm going to explain it. What is a strange woman in the Bible? What is that? Does anybody know? It's a harlot. That's exactly what it is. Somebody that transacts business with a lewd woman, a harlot, is somebody that can't be trusted. Proverbs is joining these 2 acts together, the suretyship and the transacting of business with a harlot, to say something. It says you're on the highway to ruin. I got to tell you about a guy that I used to work for 30 years ago probably. He was a guy that attempted to transact business with a strange woman. And the police found out. I worked for this guy. He was arrested. The next day, when he got out, he went to every neighbor in his subdivision and stole their newspaper so they wouldn't read about him. He went to all of his wife's friends and stole the newspaper so that his wife's friends wouldn't hear about it and call him. You know what I did? I resigned and went and got another job because I don't want to be tied up. If a guy would do that, he would do anything. We're talking about people that can put their life on the concourse towards ruin by stewardship, by a suretyship, or by interacting with a lewd woman. That's what this is saying here. I don't think in America we take that literally. We have people signing for people all the time. Watch out what you do with your money. Verse number 14. Let me just say this real fast because we had a president that said this didn't matter. Morality matters in the concourse of life. Young men, do right. It matters the actions that you take in life. Verse number 14. He that blesseth his friend with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted a curse to him. You say, Jeff, what's wrong with praising somebody? Actually, I think this is just a little bit different. I think this is really talking about the curse of ostentatious flattery. And when I say ostentatious flattery, I mean a pretentious display designed to impress, to get something for myself. I flatter you because I am out to get something for me. Those words aren't about you. They're really about me, and I'll go into a little bit more depth about that. Flattery in this context, in this text, is really a loud vaunting. Let me ask you, where have you heard the term vaunteth before? Have you heard that? 1 Corinthians 13. What does it say about charity and love? Vaunteth not. This is loud vaunting. It's telling me that person that is flattering somebody else doesn't really love them. That flattery is all about benefiting me. And being in the corporate world, I have tons of examples, and I'm going to talk about a few of them in just a minute. The flatterer practices insincere flattery. He inflicts, I believe, incalculable injury on himself when he flatters somebody else. Kim, being in the corporate world, I know you face this as well. I think the flatterer really hurts the independent. I want to be careful how I convey this because I want to convey it accurately, but hurts the independent nature that God has given us. What I mean by that is this. I think that I have to flatter Brother Aaron to help me. And that makes me dependent on him and not him for my promotion. That's what a flatterer is all about. He is subjugating himself to another man, thinking another man has power and authority to help. But we know all rising up and lowering comes from him. And I hope we see that and how it actually hurts the flatterer. You know what the flatterer also knows? In himself, he knows that he's a snake in the grass. He knows he's looking for the right one that can help him, and he is a snake in the grass. Have y'all ever heard of a writer named Ben Jonson? Ben Jonson lived in the late 1500s, early 1600s. He was an English writer, and he said this. And I thought it was just, this is a principle that people in yesteryear lived by that we've forgotten today. But Ben Jonson said this, of all the wild beasts in the earth, preserve me from the flatterer. He was saying that is more dangerous to my life than all the wild beasts out there, and it's true today. And we have forgotten that. Watch out what you listen to and what people, the praise you get from others is what it should do. And I'm going to skip a few things, but rising early, in the second part of that verse, rising early in the morning, he is up and at it. I have stopped traveling so much, and I've told you all that. Thank the Lord I don't have to get on an airplane much anymore, but I'm on Zoom calls all the time now. I'm 5 or 6 Zoom calls a day. How many are you on a day? 2 or 3. Yeah, it gets old fast. There's this one guy. I am one of the senior division vice presidents for our company. There are 4 of us. There's a guy in the Northeast. There's a guy in the Southeast. I'm in the Midwest, and there's somebody in the West. And then we have somebody also on these group weekly calls who is in charge of major national accounts. So there's 5 of us, plus our boss, who is Brett. There is one of those individuals, and I won't tell you where they're at or their name, but the first time he got on a Zoom call with all of us, they have this program in the background. You can make whatever you want to appear. I don't even know what that's called. You know what he had for his background? A picture of the boss. It's the truth. I shook my head, but you know what it did for me? Watch that guy. Watch that guy. And it's proven over the last year that I worked with him that watching him was a prudent thing to do. That's his whole life. When I read this verse, that's who I thought of, the flatterer, who is not about Brett, he's about himself. Makes me mad too, actually. I was in Miami about 2 years ago, and we were going to do a presentation to a major brokerage firm down there. And I had 2 of my employees that live in Florida were there, and then another person that's my counterpart, the guy in the Southeast, was there. And we were driving to the meeting in the car, all 4 of us. And one of the employees of mine, a lady, was sitting in the back seat. We were quiet, just driving along. And out of the blue, she says, "Jeff, you're such a good driver." Where did that come from? What's that even about? Then I realized the flatterer, somebody looking to maneuver themselves, to position themselves in my favor. Watch out for people. See things for what they are. The Bible's clearly warning us about the flatterer. Now look at verse number 15. Verse number 15. A continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. Ladies, this is the Bible, okay? So if you're sitting next to your wife, please keep her in line for me during this time. You can't do it, John? A continual dropping. Drip, drip, drip. A house roof that is leaking. Have you ever laid in bed at night? The house that we lived in prior to the one we're in now, we were sleeping in our bedroom, and I could just hear something out of you know how you're sleeping, but you're not really fully sleeping? And I heard this drip, drip, drip. Man, that faucet has started to leak. I got up and turned it as tight as I could turn it, laid back down. What did I hear? Drip, drip, drip. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. It was frustrating. Matter of fact, if I'm honest with you, I was getting mad. I want to go to sleep. Drip, drip, drip. I pray nobody in here understands the context of what I'm trying to convey. So on a rainy day, that continual dripping becomes all of the focus. That's all you think about. Nothing else. You can't get it off your mind. You're laying there, and it's all you hear is that drip, drip, drip. And a contentious woman are alike. I'm glad God said that, because I wouldn't have the guts to say it. But it's the truth. It is the truth. A problem that you cannot ignore. A man can go to work and work business all day, but he can't stop thinking about what's going to be like when he gets home. Drip, drip, drip. And when he's home, he can't sit and rest comfortably. Drip, drip, drip. The contentious woman is scolding and brawling and not allowing any comfort at home. You know, I thank the Lord. Lynn and I have been married 40 years, going on 41 years. Just for a few years she was never like that. But as a stepchild, y'all know much of my background as a child. Rough childhood. Multiple stepmoms, not at the same time, I don't think, but multiple stepmoms. And with one of my father's wives, it wasn't a drip, drip, drip. It was Niagara Falls. And it never stopped. And the spirit of the house was on edge all the time. It was like almost in a fighting mode all the time. Drip, drip, drip. The effect that it has on the husband and on the kids is incalculable. It's always there, and the tension's always there. Drip. I was counseling. There's a young lady at work that works in another department. I've been counseling her on finances and serving the Lord and other things like that. And I told her, I made this statement this last week, the lady has got to be the spirit of the home, a calming, soothing spirit where people want to be there. A few weeks ago, I talked about the home should be a priority for every member of the family, and it should be. Ladies, make it where the guy wants it to be that. Be the kind of wife that is where the faucet is turned off and there's no dripping. Be that kind of guy where he wants to come home, where he wants to be around you, where he wants the home to be a priority in his life. That you can help him want to be there. Look at verse number 16. Whoso hideth her, who is he talking about here in verse 16? The one back in verse 15. Whoso hideth her, hideth the wind, and the ointment of his right hand, which bewrayeth itself. In other words, whoever attempts to stop her brawling, to stop her contention, to repress how she is doing in the home, to restrain her, to hinder her voice from being the loudest thing in the house, that's heard in the streets, that's heard by the neighbors, that's heard by other people in life, that endeavors to shame her because of her actions, whoever does it is like trying to hide the wind. Can you hide the wind? Go out there and try to grab the wind. Go out there and try to get a hold of it and stop it from doing what it does. Have any of you ever been in Chicago, walking downtown? You all know what I'm saying then. Was many times been in Chicago during the winter. The wind's blowing, but when the wind's blowing this way and you're walking by a building that's right here, the wind sort of stops it for a little bit. It stops it for a little bit, but when you get to that street, what happens? It funnels it and it exponentially grows that wind where it almost knocks you over. That's what this woman's like. You think you're going to stop it for a little bit? Nuh-uh-uh. The one that's a continual dropping, man, it's going to come with a rampage. It's going to be a hurricane that's focused and centered right on the target of her vengeful thinking. Does this make sense? I hope we don't have families that have to endure that. I know that what I endured as a kid has affected the rest of my life by things I think, maybe even the actions that I take. There are long-term ramifications for this sin. Do you know who needs to hear this? If there's somebody here right now that's mad because I said this, that's probably the one that needs to hear it. How you doing? My wife's making sure she smiles very pleasantly at me. And it says, and the ointment of his right hand. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, only got about 5 or 6 minutes left. But what that's really saying, you take ointment and you put it in your hand. The ointment, let me explain it like this. I love basketball. Used to play basketball all the time. I'm old, and if I tried to play basketball right now, do you know what happened tomorrow, the next day? Oh, I'm so sore. And I would end up going and getting some ointment, some Bengay, something like that, and rubbing it all over me. But as soon as I approach you, what will you smell? Bengay. The stench of this dripping is smelled by others. It's there. You ain't hiding it. The third wife my dad had, that was not a secret thing that went on. People could smell it. Because when you leave out the door and you try to look all nice, dress all up, what's that smell? Yeah, that's what it is. And it starts with that drip, drip, drip. Verse 17. No, let's see, is it? Yes. Verse 17 really is the root of the matter regarding the flatterer and regarding the drip, drip, drip of the contentious woman. What does that mean? What do you mean that's the root of the matter? Verse 17, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. If the husband and wife were friends, that drip, drip, drip would go away because I love my friend enough to sit down and talk with them. If the flatterer who's out for himself was really a friend, iron sharpeneth iron, so doth the countenance of a friend, it would make my flattererness go away because I'm concerned about my friend. You see, I'm a firm believer that Proverbs is not a thought, and then another thought, and then another verse with another thought. I think there's some connections between all of these. And being a friend that is concerned about my friend, it will help me interact. You know, sometimes friends have to have hard conversations because I love my friend, or my friend loves me. Jeff, you're getting off track a little bit here, bud. You need to act right. You're headed down a path that's going to hurt you. I'd rather have that from a friend than one that says how great and wonderful I am. And a husband and wife, if they're really friends, if they really love each other, if they're really out for the best for each other, there won't be that continual contention and drip, drip, drip. There will be somebody, hon, we have a problem here, hon. Let's sit down. Let's address this. Let's figure it out because I love my wife and I want to have a great relationship. And if there's contention, it is incumbent upon friends to address it. Rightly so. Comprende? Hope you agree with that, because it's the truth. Friendship, whether in the church or even people that aren't saved and in the world, works and betters people. Have you ever heard of Scipio Africanus? Do y'all know who that is? He was a great Roman general. He is actually one of the generals that defeated Hannibal when Hannibal had invaded Rome. He is revered as a great general. Do you know who Scipio owes his prowess in leading people to? Somebody that most people have never heard of. And the guy's name is Lollius. Lollius was a guy that befriended Scipio early in his life and helped sharpen him intellectually. Friends do that. We don't know of Lollius at all. People don't really know much about him, but they know who Scipio is. And he owes who he became to his friend. I want to be a friend that helps you be the Christian that you can be. That's what a good friend is all about. Somebody who's concerned about your walk with God. There are examples in the secular world all over the place. Have y'all ever heard of Cicero? You've heard of Cicero. Cicero was the most famous orator in Rome during the transition from being a republic to an empire. Do you know what people did with Cicero? Cicero was somebody that they would pay to give presentations for them in the Senate. And they would pay him, the consulates would pay him to give presentations because his oratory skills were phenomenal. That's who Cicero is. But Cicero owes those abilities to somebody else. And his name is Atticus, who taught him as a friend how to interact with people and how to present things in a reasonable and logical way. What I'm saying is a friend will help a friend. A friend won't be a flatterer trying to get something out of somebody. A friend won't be somebody who causes contention in a relationship. A friend will be all about the friend. Just imagine, I have a beautiful, beautiful plant here, and the plant is blooming and flowers are springing up. And on the other side, I have what used to be a plant. It's a few sticks coming up. It looks like half of it's dead. I own both of these, but only one of them have I been a friend to. The one I spent time watering and cultivating and helping. I was a friend to this plant. I was not a friend to that plant. And that's how we ought to interact and look at the friends that we have. I ought to be about them and not about myself. How can I help John Yarn become the man that God wants him to be? By being the right type of friend, by not being a flatterer. I hope this makes sense. The greatest element in friendship is faithfulness. Whatever comes John Yarn's way, I ought to be a faithful friend through good times, through bad times, when there's little bugs on the plant, and when things are just wonderful. I ought to be the same friend, a faithful friend to him. Iron sharpeneth iron. And let me get the exact quote. I was going to say that. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. Let's be friends that are concerned about the other person, and not ourselves. We're dismissed.